Messiah speaking from the TheBlerdSpot interviews. And here I'm with the amazing, legendary Black Queen of Horror herself, Gigi Morgami.
Hello. Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Definitely, definitely. We're right into it. So you do create Black horror manga.
Yes.
What was your first introduction into anime and manga?
My first introduction into anime and manga. The first manga that I ever read was actually a horror manga.
Mhm.
It's Panorama of Hell from
Oh.
Hideshi Hino.
Okay.
I read that when I was about 7 years old.
Okay.
And I was reading it at 7. I read it way too young.
Mm.
But it was really impactful for me.
Okay.
It was the first like manga I ever read, but the fact that it was horror was like, I don't know. I think it like awoke something in me.
I feel that. For me, like the first horror manga I actually looked into was Uzumaki.
Nice.
That was it. It's the drawings. It's the drawings that got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite like vignette from Uzumaki?
I would I would have to say it was when at the town pond everything just like kind of like came up into like a whirlpool.
That like ash, I think.
Yeah, and it's like what's actually makes it interesting is how like everything they consistently made like everything look like a spiral be like a thing of like terror.
Yeah.
So every time maybe the people in the story doesn't know.
Yeah.
But you as a reader, every time you see a spiral, like what's going to happen?
Right. Or the idea of like there's a possibility a spiral can like happen right here.
Yeah.
Like what's going on? No, for sure. This monkey is it was definitely like an interesting thought exercise that I think nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so like unsettling. And like no matter what situation you found a spiral in, it's like this is like what is going on? Like it just like leveled, like ramped up.
Yeah. So. Definitely. And also getting into that, what anime and manga inspire you the most?
Anime and manga that inspires me the most. That is a good question. Honestly, anything by Junji Ito is pretty inspiring to me.
Okay.
I also love a few other, I guess, horror manga artists. Although some of them aren't really so much. Shuzuo Oshimi is another artist, another mangaka that I enjoy his work. I really like his stuff. Blood on the Tracks.
Yeah.
It's really good. Kind of a horror, but more of like a psychological sort of situation.
Yeah.
Kazuo Mez. I was about to say Kazuhiro. That is not that man's name. Kazuo Mez is another really good OG manga artist.
Okay.
I read his manga, The Drifting Classroom, which is really good. And outside of horror, one of my top OGs is Naoki Urasawa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he is like an incredible storyteller. The way that his facial expressions are, like all of it is, he's top tier. Like he's a legend. And two other, in particular, Katsuhiro Otomo, so the manga artist of Akira.
Yeah.
Amazing work, and then also Satoshi Kon. R.I.P. I think people only know Satoshi Kon for making movies.
Yeah.
But he actually did manga. He started his career off doing manga.
Interesting.
He has this one manga that's unfinished called Opus. It's very close to what he did in his movies. A lot of like weird visuals and like dream-like visuals. But the art was really solid. And fun fact, he worked with Katsuhiro Otomo on Akira and was his manga assistant.
Okay.
Like back in the day. So
legendary.
Legendary guys, yeah.
That's facts. It's so you talk about what inspired you. How do you reflect that in your comic, in your work?
I try to take bits and pieces of like what I like from the artist and the mangaka that inspired me and try to put in my work, be it the way that they tell stories, or even down to like the way they create certain features on their characters. Um, a lot of people see Junji Ito in my work, and like that's intentional because visually he inspires me a lot. But I also put a lot of Naoki Urasawa's like stuff in my work as well.
Okay.
Especially, I really like the way that he draws faces.
Yeah.
I think Urasawa is not really like the most popular mangaka when it comes to like great draftsmanship. Like people don't like when people think of like a very well drawn artist. Absolutely, they're thinking about like Yusuke Murata. Yeah. Like when it comes to like best artwork. But I really like how like semi-realistic Urasawa's work is.
Yeah.
It's a little cartoony, but there's also like you can see real people in the way that he draws his stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep that for the way that I make Black characters.
Yeah.
And like our features are like very prominent, but then they're also very soft. And a lot of times in like manga and anime, the features tend to be like very pointed.
Yeah.
Very sharp, and that's just it. Like you could do that with a Black anime character, but they don't quite feel Black. It's like an anime character with like chocolate painted skin, right?
Yeah.
So because I saw that he was able to get such diversity in his work, I really wanted to hone in on that for the way that I kind of made my like Black characters or like characters of color.
I feel that.
Yeah.
And what are mentioning your work? What are some few of the projects you worked on so far, and what made them memorable to you?
So, few projects that I've worked on so far. One of my earliest projects was it's called Mixtape Reel. It's on my website. It was a very small mini project that I did using lyrics from like different pop songs, and it was supposed to be like a set of like 5 songs that I did, and I only ended up doing one because I got tired of it and like I just wanted to jump into like narratives.
Yeah.
And the one that I did was everything I Wanted from Billie Eilish.
Okay.
So that was one of them that I did. That was a personal thing. And then I had some work, 2 commissioned works. One is called Cheez It.
Okay.
I think it's Small Rat Big City.
Okay.
And that was more of like a slice of life sort of situation. And then I had another one. I am blanking on the name right now. I know this girl's gonna kill me when she sees this. Oh gosh, I think it's Divine Locket. We're gonna figure it out. It's gonna be around somewhere. But that particular story was I think based on D&D characters, if I'm not mistaken. But it was like a not sci-fi, like a fantasy kind of situation. And then after that, I took 1 or 2 other commissioned works. But from my personal projects, there's of course Resenter. And I did a few smaller works one of them is called Wash and Go, which went viral on social media. And that was basically a kind of my personal feelings of why I don't like getting my hair done at the hairdresser. For those who have read it, if you know, you know. And then there was Tooth Fairy, and that came out a little bit afterwards, about a little girl who lost one of her teeth and was putting it under a pillow for the Tooth Fairy. And that went horrifically wrong. And then the latest short that I did was actually a collaboration project with my friend Kevin.
Nice.
And it actually cameos Jackie in the story. And I ended up calling it the Soul Stealer.
Okay.
And that was in full collaboration with the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. So they ended up using the artwork for it for their trailer.
Okay.
For the festival.
That's what's up. And we talk about your aesthetic and the way you draw. It's a blend of comic and manga. How do you came up with this unique style?
So That's a really good question. I grew up uh, pretty much primarily into manga.
Mm-hmm.
I think this answer also kind of goes into why I call myself a manga artist as opposed to just a comic artist.
Mm-hmm.
I primarily grew up reading manga.
Mm.
I didn't start reading American comics until like college.
Okay.
So a lot of what I saw, like in sequentials, was coming from Japan and coming from manga. So that was kind of like the foundation of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then growing up, I was really into like Western comic aesthetics because I still watched American cartoons, like superhero cartoons. Like I grew up watching X-Men, Spider-Man, Spider-Man, you know, Static Shock and everything. So the aesthetics of like the comic books was still kind of like there for me. But then also, I was a huge fan of horror at the time. Also, probably because of Panorama of Hell, the first manga that I read. And from there, I was really big into like movie posters. So on top of manga and on top of anime, a big thing that influenced me as a kid was movies. And I always paid attention to like movie posters and like composition on the posters. And after a while, it was just something that like was intuitive, like for me.
Just came together, so to say.
It just kind of came together. I wouldn't say that like I didn't have to think about it. But it was just always these things that like from when I was a kid, I always really liked. You know, I always really liked pinup art from like the 50s, good girl art. Movie posters from like the 30s, like the Universal monsters, like Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman,
classics,
the classic horror, those posters and stuff like that. I always really gravitated to those posters, even like the horror movies of the 80s and like the 70s. You know, like seeing some of the posters as a kid, like that kind of aesthetic still stuck with me. And then in 2020, when we were all on lockdown, I really didn't like the way that my work was looking. And I really had to sit down and like think to myself, like, what's happening here? After sitting down and like like really diligently like writing it down, and being intentional about like what I wanted my artwork to look like and feel like for people. And like what also made me feel really good to like draw and be proud of, to like display for the world. That's kind of how I ended up with that kind of collaboration of styles, where it's like incorporating Japanese manga art, but also like Western pulp and movies and like those kind of aesthetics.
Essentially, just over time, of course, just drawing your own work, you come to reflect back and put these elements together to display the way you view your art now, so to say, to the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Also, it comes to that. What's your biggest hurdle actually when it comes to drawing?
Oh gosh. Okay. Biggest hurdle when it comes to drawing. There's a lot. I feel like there's a lot of ways that I can improve. I think at this point in time, because there's so many resources for how to draw. Like there's YouTube, you can go on Google, everybody has a course these days. I think for me, the hardest thing is like, I don't know what's actually going to help me and be helpful. A lot of that stuff is for beginners or for people who are not at a level that I'm at. So like in order for me to like surpass my level, I need a higher education. Right. So I think that's what's been difficult. And you can't really just go up to an artist online and be like, hey, can you mentor me, or right? So like, because even in my position now, like I'll get DMs and different messages and stuff of people asking me to check their stuff and like if I have advice or just different things, and it's like I don't have time to always do all that. So even in my experience, knowing that like I don't have the time to like properly give you like a proper answer on this, or like help you as like thoroughly as you need it.
Mm-hmm.
Like just from that experience, I know that like my like senpais are gonna be like, girl, like unless you're dropping some coins, I can't help you, which is understandable.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's difficult for me, I guess. Yeah, having some quality education to like move me over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like drawing, or you feel lost. What kind of motivates you to actually continue to draw?
That is a good question. Honestly, and I think this is relevant for younger artists too. When I lose motivation to draw, I just don't draw. I will chill. I'll jump on a video game. I'll watch a movie. Something is not clicking.
Okay.
Personally, like I have ADHD, so I know that like drawing is like a hyperfixation for me. So if I'm feeling tired, that means I need to pivot. I need to take a break. I need to focus on something else, and then come back to it once like, because that time away, I'm gonna start getting antsy, and like that's like clockwork. I know that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes younger artists are a little scared to move away because they don't know if it'll come back.
Yeah.
Like that need to like draw will come back. It does though. So when I don't feel motivated to draw, I will take a break.
Okay.
I will say if it's paid work, then it's like,
you
I'm gonna have a second cup of coffee and we're just gonna have to push through it. But otherwise, if I'm within deadlines or if it's my own stuff, I'm gonna take a break.
I got you.
I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna go to the movie theater. That is something that like really
helps you.
Yeah, that's what gets me motivated. Watching movies and reading manga, also playing video games, being in a creative world that's like outside of my head. Yeah.
Similar in the sense that sometimes I also write as well. So usually if I get stuck on one story, I would write on another story, or I would just do something else to create a feel like give me inspiration. I would read a comic, a manga, play video games, and that was have that moment like, all right, took a break from this world I'm creating. I think I'll go back to it like a fresh mind, so to say.
Right. You be writing?
I be writing. What you be writing? It's
little screenplays.
It's a I'll say aspiring comic / manga writer myself.
Okay.
But that's for another time. But I also do want to get more to the nitty gritty. When do you realize that not only you want to draw but create a business around it?
When did I realize that?
Yeah.
When I knew that I didn't want to work for nobody else. Honestly, I am I don't even want to say that I'm a bad worker. Like, to be honest, I only held down like 3 proper jobs ever in my life. The first two don't even really count. One was like, when you're 14 and then like you get your blue card.
Yeah, some of you think.
Yeah. That was the first one. And I was cleaning up trash in the projects. Didn't want to do that. That wasn't for me.
I feel that.
No shade. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
But I was like,
it's not for you.
That wasn't for me. I'm little too, like, that's not for me.
That's valid.
And then the second job was it was technically 4 jobs, but both were work studies. So the second and third job were work studies at my old college. I got fired on my 3rd day because I was running late. Didn't know I had ADHD at the time. I might have won some brownie points if I was like, hey, I have time blindness. I was trying to be on time. Got distracted in the cafeteria. I was hungry after dance class. Sorry. Gotta eat. Had dance class. And then I was helping people in the Mac lab. So that was my 3rd job. And then my 4th was my longest. I was a bartender and a server in a Japanese izakaya. And that was fun, but like, it wasn't really for me. Management was not great. I had some decent coworkers, and I had some coworkers that wasn't about much.
Mm.
But the aspects of that job that I really liked and why I kept it for so long was because I really liked the customer service aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked meeting new people. I liked talking to people. I liked selling stuff, like selling people on my recommendation of like what sake they should get or like what food they should eat. And then when they took it, like the amount of excitement that I got, and then when they liked it, I was like, oh,
that was the best. When your recommendations hit,
right? I was like, oh, got it. So because I knew that I was like, I guess a people person, like a salesperson in that sense, but also like liking to meet new people, to talk to people, recommending stuff. I knew that sales were going to be for me.
Okay.
And I knew that I didn't really want to work for nobody else. My last job, I on top of the ADHD, I have a chronic illness, and it got really bad at my last job between management and like the amount of grace that they would give me for the complications that I have from my chronic illness. And I knew I didn't want to deal with that anymore ever again. And I've always been drawing, and I knew I wanted to be an artist. I just didn't quite know how. So from that work experience, I knew I was gonna have to make this work. And I didn't think manga was gonna be in the cards for that, because when I was a kid, I just thought like that wasn't something that I could do as an American. And then I was like, who cares?
Who cares? Like,
who cares? F it. And then that's kind of how it got started. I would say officially I got started in 2018 though. Like legally, officially, set up the LLC, did the paperwork.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my next question. You've been in business again roughly about 6 years or so, going 6 years.
Yeah. Officially.
All right. Quick math.
Yeah.
What's like one of your biggest hurdles in your business you experience, and how do you overcome?
Education. Something that's really annoying to me is that there's not a lot of business education for creative and visual art-based businesses. There's a lot of education on other types of businesses. Anything that has to do with products, which you can also have products in a creative-based business. But there are wider aspects to that. And you almost have to like split your brain into two and look in two different spots in order to find what it is that you need. You have the business aspect of it where, you have to learn how to do marketing. That's a huge one. You got to learn how to do marketing. You have to learn how to do, products. Ideally, you want to sell products. Even to like talk to people, how to network with people, how to, pitch yourself and kind of sell yourself and your products, especially in person at like conventions or at art fairs or whatever. Some of these things you learn on the way, but like not all of it is taught to you. Like some of the things that like some things you could just be taught and like get a heads up, like a leg up on.
Yeah, someone could teach you like leg up of like how to apply certain things or
right.
Like,
how to write a business email. You don't necessarily need experience. Like somebody can teach you how to format that and like bam, we're done. I don't feel like there's a lot of resources for that. I want to say like especially like in the Black and brown community. I was lucky enough to have a former friend who we were both kind of doing business stuff at the same time. So she sort of ended up becoming like a mini mentor for me. So like as she would finish something and like I'm coming up behind her, she would be like, oh, this, and this. And like that was cool. That was like super appreciated. But like that was somebody that I knew. And it just so happened that like we were both like creating businesses at the same time. But had I not had her, I think it would have taken me much longer to get to this space, I think. I know that like New York City does have like a small business program. But like, it just, I just think that like the marketing around that could be a little tighter. Go on social media, you know, nobody's looking like in the libraries for that kind of stuff. So, I just feel like it could be like that's rough, especially for artists. You never find, even when it comes to like verifying a business on social media. There's no category for like artists. It's either like digital creator, business or brand, organization, news, athlete, but there's no like artist. Creator doesn't mean artist anymore. It means content creator, which is like fine, but then like there's no space for like a visual artist,
like actual
artist or cartoonist or anything, or illustrator. There's like no lanes for us in that space, in that sense rather, and that's where there's hurdles.
I got you. Also, arrange, or would it be maybe if you could give advice to yourself in the past, what would it be?
Advice to myself from the past. It might be the same thing, honestly. No. Best advice currently is never too late to start. Because that's true in anything that you're doing. But especially in art, it feels like once you're past like 25, it feels like you've peaked. Like you're already, if you ain't do nothing, you ain't do nothing. Like you'll never be anything. And that's just not true. Past advice that I would give to my past self would probably be, don't go to college. Study business. If you do go to college, I wouldn't even say go to college for business because I know myself. I just, I'm gonna be like, this is boring. But study business and make a business plan as an artist. Follow the artist and the cartoonist who are doing what you kind of want to do. Follow what they're doing to a T until you start figuring it out, like what works best for you. Don't go to college. That's going to end up being such a waste of time in the long run. For me. That's for me.
Yeah.
Not for nobody else. For me.
I feel that. And I know you mentioned in the interview with regards to Kevin, so talk about connections. What are some of the meaningful connections you create along the way, and how you go about connecting with people?
Ooh, this is a fun one. I've made quite a few meaningful connections. Honestly, too many to name everybody. Kevin Fermini is one of them. He's such a great like filmmaker. He's a great video editor. And our styles work so well together because if I didn't do art, I'd probably be doing what he's doing. And I think he feels the same way because, you know, manifesting it into existence. Like hopefully we're gonna work on a comic together. But I think, you know, his work is just phenomenal. He does a lot of like filmmaking and like specifically like schlocky, like horror film, cult films, stuff like that, which is the stuff that I'm really into. And I just found him online and I was like, yo, I want to be your friend. I think your work is incredible. Like, let's be friends. And he was like, I think your work's incredible too. Okay. And that's been like super dope. My friend Zero Gravity, who is like, she's just like a whole host of things. She's an MC, she's a host, she's like incredible, just like an incredible horror girly, movie reviewer. Of course, my friend Nicholas Draper Ivy, who is an illustrator, comic artist, just like A1 friends, A1 grump. I have so many friends. All of my influencer, content creator friends, all of that. Just so many people. I can't really, I don't know.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
It's so many people that like great connections. I would say though, to create connections with people and build a network, go into it trying to make friends.
Okay.
Honestly. I think when you go into it with this perception that I'm going to be businessy and I'm networking and like, how do you do? And like, you know what I mean? How do you do? Like, it's rigid. Stiff.
Yeah.
It's rigid, it's stiff. And like in the arts or like in creation, like in creative spaces, people aren't typically it's not that stiff.
Definitely. One last thing. Most important, tell us about your manga Resenter and how you come up with the story.
Resenter is about a girl named Jackie who is killed at her job one night. And she wakes up in this place called the Death Zone. And she meets a woman named Rhea. And Rhea is a Ripper. And Rippers are like the Grim Reapers of this world. And Rhea gives Jackie 3 options for transitioning on. The first is to transition on. She can be reinstated into a new body and basically pass on. The second option is for Rhea to get revenge on Jackie's behalf, which is like the primary function of Rippers.
Yeah.
And then the third option is for Jackie to become a Ripper herself. So the story follows Jackie's path within this new Ripper world, while also trying to figure out like who it was that murdered her, so that she can get her own revenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds hella dope. I like that. That's so many outcomes, and that's most importantly, the story sounds amazing. How can we support you? What's your social media? How can we support you?
Thank you. You can support me by picking up the book. I have hard copies and digital copies. It's on my website, my online store. Sorry. I have only 2 links: gigimurakami.art, and then gigimurakami.store. So that store is for my store, my online shop. I have the books there. I have apparel. I have the other manga that I was talking about earlier. So Tooth Fairy, Wash and Go, all of those are up there. Yeah, and then I have my website where you can check out my work. If you know somebody looking for comic artists to do covers or sequentials,
okay,
email me.
Got you. So you heard here at TheBlerdSpot and the amazing, phenomenal Gigi Murakami.
Thank you.